Hey guys, welcome back to the Maw Extra. This time around we're going to be having a little look at all of the Maw's transformations and yeah, so basically I'm just basically going to go through all of the Maw's transformations and then just basically in the order that I like them from number 5 being the number 5 being the worst and number 1 being the best. I'm going to go through them based on my own preferences, my own opinions, how I think each one handled personally. I'm not going to be counting screen time into this because if I did, it would be very, very unfair to my number 1 pick. Anyone who's been following the main series should probably know by now what my number 1 pick is. It should be pretty obvious to anyone who's been following along the main series, but yeah, that's basically it. Just going through all the forms from my personal worst to best, pretty much, and yeah. Okay, and up here on number 5, my least favourite form of the Maw is the beetle form. Now, throughout the main Let's Play, I've been pretty vocal about how I feel about the beetle form ever since DLC 1 Brute Force, pretty much, when we first used the beetle form. Right at the start, I was pretty vocal about how I feel about this particular form. Now, I mean, again, some of the forms are a little difficult, but nowhere near as much as this one. Like, yes, Bulbous can be a little annoying at times, but this one just takes the cake, honestly, with how difficult it is. So, the beetle form is kind of cool looking. Like, if you look at the Maw, he's got kind of like the design of a beetle, pretty much. So we've got the brown underbit and then the dark blue or black shell. So it's kind of a cool design, but unfortunately, as a game mechanic, a design isn't enough to save. But ultimately, what saves you as a game mechanic isn't your looks, it's how you handle as a mechanic. And unfortunately, there's a lot to be desired here. So basically, how it works is if you hold A here, if you press A, the Maw will go into a charge, and whilst charging, the Maw will you'll have very little control over him. You'll have some control, like you can steer yourself around with the thumbstick, but it's not the best. You don't have the best control over him, and a lot of the time he'll go in completely the wrong direction from where you want him to go. It does take a little bit of practice to get a hang of it, and even then it's not the best. And that's my main reason for not particularly liking the beetle form. So as you can see, I've got a bit more control over him now. I've got a bit more practice, but again, ultimately it is down to practice. But yeah, it's a little difficult to control at times. Again, it takes practice, and you only use this form like twice throughout the game. Once majorly, but twice if you consider DLC. You consider the DLC as well. But yeah, not a huge fan of this form. Personally, just because it's, again, I've gotten a little bit better over time, but for a beginner or whatever, it's very difficult to maneuver. But yeah, that's my number 5 pick. Now again, this is the only form I have any like major issues with. Like everything else at this point, like after this, is I don't really have any major problem with, apart from this one. But yeah. Okay, Bulbous form. This is my number 4 pick for all the forms of the Maw. So this form is very, very similar to the Gastro as well in terms of like gameplay wise, which you'll hear me talk about in a little bit. But basically, the Bulbous form takes it basically takes the aspects of the Bulbous Queen and the Bulbous Bug we saw. So if you look at the Maw, you see he's got you'll see he's got like wings on the back of him now. He's got these like little electrical spikes that he uses to electrocute stuff. He's got a slightly more like like it's still purple, but he's a slightly lighter shade of purple. And he's also got like an electrified kind of effect within him as well. Kind of like a Zen kind of design as well. And basically how this works in terms of like gameplay is basically if you bring them all over towards things like such as yums or just things in general, if you bring them towards things, he will electrocute them. Like so. Now, this can be kind of annoying. I will say this, I might say this about the Gastro as well, but basically, this can be both useful and annoying at the same time, because basically the more electrocutes these, so you can use this ammunition. For example, if we take this guy and bring it all the way over to that generator over there, but if we bring this all the way to this generator and then just throw this like that, we can basically use this as ammunition. That takes out the generator. So that is useful, like having the more electrocute stuff. But okay, so it is useful, but at the same time it can be kind of annoying, and this goes with both Gastro and Bulbous, because basically the more electrocutes, like basically he will electrocute or burn, like respectively, depending on which form he's in. But he will electrocute or burn literally anything in his path. So imagine you're just going along your way, and then like you've eaten everything, you just try and make it your way to the level, and then suddenly one of these things pops up in your path, and he will stop to electrocute it. And when he's burning or electrocuting something, he will actually stop. Like you can't move while he's doing that. So you've literally got to wait till he does the animation of electrocuting or burning something before you can continue. So while it is useful, it can also be kind of annoying at the same time. And not only that, but with the Bulbous form in particular, it can be a little annoying because he's but it can be kind of annoying because whilst in this form, like it's not always that apparent, but the more acts a little more for lack of a better word, drunk, I suppose, where he's like, I don't know, he'll get stuck on stuff when you're trying to move. He'll get stuck in place, like you'll be moving but he stays in place, and then like the leash will break pretty much. So that can happen sometimes quite a bit in this form, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really have too much to say other than that. But yeah. Okay, and here we are with the Gastro form. This is my number 3 pick. Yeah, I basically, in terms of the between the Bulbous and the Gastro forms, they're very similar in regards to like mechanic and stuff. Like how they handle is very similar. That's why I put them so close together. I just liked the Gastro form a little bit more than the Bulbous form, just so that's why I put it so. But yeah, it was very difficult to actually rank these just because they're just that similar. But much like the Bulbous form, basically if you go next to something with the Maw, he'll basically go around auto burning it. So it's not a case of like pressing a button. It's literally just go next to something. See, I'll go near this, and he'll burn it. That's pretty much how it works. So no buttons or anything like that. Just literally walk up to something, and the Maw will burn it pretty much. So not really too much to say. It's very simple, very surface level. There isn't really too much to go about it, really. In terms of design, I do quite like the Gastro form. Like I like the little details here and there. Like for example, if you see the there's like all the like speckles on the Maw's head, which looks kind of like volcanic rock, which is a nice detail. Another thing I like is, if you notice, when the Maw moves, like basically, if you notice, when the Maw's moving around, if he's not burning stuff, he's like got his mouth shut, like almost as if he can't really open his mouth without breathing fire. So that's a nice little attention to detail there. Like literally, the only time he opens his mouth in this form is when he's either eating something or breathing fire. So it's, again, nice little attention to detail there. But yeah, there's not really too much to say. It's very similar to the Bulbous form, where you go up to something and he'll auto kind of like use his ability. But yeah, for that reason, I put Bulbous and Gastro pretty much right on top of each other, with one being higher than the other just because, yeah, I picked Gastro to be the higher. Well, again, I don't really dislike either one, to be honest. I just picked this one to be a little higher just because it's a little less awkward. Like, the Maw doesn't tend to, like, basically, I find, like, in the bulbous form, the Maw acts a little more, drunk, for lack of a better word, where he just gets, where he's, basically, you'll be moving around, and he'll just, like, stop moving in place, like, you'll be moving, and then he'll just be staying where he is, and eventually the leash gets broken. Where he just doesn't really respond to you, and I feel like in the, with the Gastro form, he doesn't do that, he's a lot more responsive. But yeah, there's not really too much to say, to be completely honest. Okay, and here we are with the Puff-tor form, and this is my number 2 pick. Again, I definitely say this is, I think I've said this a couple times throughout, like, when I was talking about how I overall, like, feel about all the forms, I definitely said that this is my second pick. Again, it should be pretty obvious what my number 1 pick is, which we'll see in a minute. But, yeah, the Puff-tor is definitely my second favourite. Just, I mean, again, the design's pretty cool. It's very unique in terms of gameplay. So basically, when you've leashed onto the Maw in this form, instead of walking along side you like normal, he basically acts like kind of like a balloon. And if you look at him, he's also got his like mouth shut, like kind of like with the Gastro, where he can't inflate if his mouth's open. So he kind of closes his mouth, like holds his breath, so he can like inflate like a balloon, similar to the Gastro. And basically, most forms usually come with like only one ability, but this one gives you an extra ability. So in Puff-tor form, basically the Maw allows you to perform a super jump just by pressing A and jumping whilst leashing onto the Maw. And in addition to that, if we go all the way over here to that generator over there, as you can see, I'll show you very, very briefly. But if we go all the way to that generator and jump up the ledge, so we've got the super jump, which I've won over. But if you perform the super jump, so press A, and then whilst in the air, press X, you can perform a body slam. So yes, most forms only have one ability, but this has 2 abilities, and because of that, again, the design, the mechanic, and the number of times you use, because this is used, it's used, I think, like 2 or 3 times throughout the game, so it's got a bit more screen time than some of the other forms, like compared to the Beetle or definitely the Bulbous, because Bulbous is only seen once. Gastro's seen a few times as well, I think. But I don't know. I think out of all of them, aside from my all-time favourites, I definitely say this is one of my favourites in the game. Not quite at the top. That's still for what's the last one, but this is definitely a close favourite. Again, it's just a really, really cool form, and yeah, this is my second favourite. And my number 1 pick is the Loofah form. So the Loofah form is very unique in regards to the other forms, but just because it's, I don't know, the Loofah form is just very, very again, unique. It's the only word I can really use to describe it. So unlike any of the other forms of the Maw, instead of like leashing him, you basically just ride on his head. Like if you go up to him, he'll stretch out his tongue, so you can then ride on his head. So instead of controlling Frank, you control the Maw himself, which is very unique as a game mechanic. It's very rare you actually get to control the Maw, and it's just, you know, again, it's a unique gimmick for this level, which obviously comes into another issue I have. Like, yes, I get it's a gimmick for that unique level and all that, you know, controlling the Maw and stuff, but But the loofah form is only seen once throughout the entire game, which personally I think hurts the actual form a little bit. Like, because it is such a cool form to use, that I think only having it once throughout the entire game kind of hurts it a little bit. Again, I might have like if it did have more screen time, I might have factored in like, you know, screen time. But because there's only, again, I didn't want to factor in screen time just because of, you know, this is my #1 pick, and that wouldn't be fair to it. So, yeah, so it's only seen once throughout the whole game, and it's kind of like a gimmick for this one level, but there's only one loofah throughout the entire game. Or, one loofah, like, you know, only one level with the loofah in it. But yeah, it's very cool. Like, it's a very cool design. Very cool design wise. Like, just like blue with a whole bunch of eyes. It's kind of obvious which one's like the main central eye. You know. But what's also cool is about this form is if you press A, the Maw can fire lasers. So yeah, that's very cool. A very cool thing about the loofah form, it can fire lasers. Now, as you are controlling the Maw, you are a little slower because Frank is a little quicker. Like, the Maw's a lot more sluggish. So this isn't a level that you can kind of rush through, or a form you can kind of get to the end as quickly as possible. It is a level that you kind of need to take your time with, just because the Maw is a lot slower than Frank. But yeah, this is definitely my #1 pick. Again, anyone who's following along with the main series probably saw this coming right from the start. Like, right at the start of the video, I bet some people will probably think, oh yeah, it's gonna be the #1 pick's gonna be the loofah. I mean, come on, it's obvious, it's plain as day. So, yeah, and that's kind of where I rank all of the forms of the Maw. Once again, I'm not counting the normal purple one just because it's, again, just the default form. I'm only counting the ones where the Maw has powers and eats stuff to turn into them. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I like all of the forms personally. So first it's Beetle being my least favorites. Again, that one probably wasn't really much of a surprise considering how vocal I was about it. So it goes from Beetle, then Bulbous, then Gastro, just because I like the Gastro a little bit more than Bulbous, then Puff-tor, and then finally Loofah. And yeah, that's about it for all the forms of the Maw. And that's going to about do it for this little video. Well, I say a little, might be a little longer than I initially intended. I don't know. It depends on all the clips really and how much gets cut out. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave this extra for the Maw. It's just something. It's just a little something. I thought, this could be interesting. I might as well do it. Like, I was considering, like, should I do this? Should I not do it? I don't know. It was basically like a coin toss whether I was gonna do this one, just because it doesn't really add that much. But I thought, might as well just, you know, it's a little more content. You know, it's trying to squeeze a little more out the game. So I figured, what the hell. So yeah, that's basically where I'm gonna leave this one. There's only one more extra I've got planned for this one, and to be honest, I only need to record the intro, and that's pretty much it. I already have the main focus of the video already, thanks to the final episode. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave this video for now. Firstly, I want to quickly apologize for a few things real quick. Firstly, if I'm not very good, like if I'm not very good at the whole top 10 list, and if I'm very rambly or whatever, this isn't my style of content. This isn't usually my kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm not used to doing these types of videos. So if I seem a little wet behind the ears or not very good, that's kind of why. This is not my this is not my rodeo. Like, this is this type of content is not my cup of tea. Like, it's like once in a blue moon where I'll do something like this probably. And the second thing I want to apologize is sorry this video took a long time to actually come out. So far, this particular video is the longest one. It's the longest video I have spent time on working on. Like this, like I've been recording and editing and stuff. I've been working on this video for like a couple weeks now. Yeah, like at the most with these types of videos, usually the longest development time my videos usually is just like maybe like 1 or 2 days, but this has took like a week, like a week or two to develop. The reason for that is because just because of well, there's a lot that goes into this one. Like this was a bit of a pain to record, to be completely honest, just because, well, for one, I was having a bit of a tough time like focusing for a little bit, like for a couple of weeks or a few days. I had a bit of a tough time focusing. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of burnout or creator's block. I don't know, but either way, I had a tough time focusing for a little bit. Another reason why it took so long to make is because well, just because of me not liking the clips. Like I have went back and recorded a few of these a couple times. Like for example, Bulbous I've recorded a couple times. Beetle I've recorded a couple times. I had to go back and re-record a couple of them just because I didn't like the initial clips, and I thought, you know, that could be better, you know. So it didn't get my seal of approval. So I went back, and with the type of game this is, you know, basically to get to some levels, to some actual to get what I want to start the video, there's a few things. Like I've got to go through the menu, and if there's a cutscene, I've got to wait for the cutscene to finish, and these cutscenes in this game can't be skipped. So it's just a long, painful process that I had to skip through. I had to just, you know, wait for before I could actually start recording. So that's why it took a long time. Like again, usually these videos take at the most a couple days, whereas this took a week or two, or at least a week. Like, yeah, I've been recording this for a week, where most videos like this record just a couple days. But this obviously was a bit of a special case. But yeah, either way, that's where I'm going to leave this video for now, this extra. So again, there's only one more planned, really. Just basically, the last extra I really have planned, for anyone who's curious, is basically a alternate ending for the final episode. It's going to be a little interesting. I'll probably end up having a time, like, for people who don't care about the whole, like, because it will probably have the full last cutscene or whatever, just to try and get the you know, the feel of it being a full you know, alternate ending. But for those who want to skip straight to the alternate ending, I will probably have a timestamp on screen most likely. But that's what I got planned for the final extra. So again, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the final extra. Until then, have a good day, you guys.